audio after I read it. He's 28, dude. That's crazy. That much wisdom, man. That's deep. All right, let's go ahead and get started, man. So I want to welcome everybody to this live training. I am Niyi Sobo. We're going to be talking about 7 ways to build bulletproof confidence, authentic confidence, and perform your best when it matters most. And I'm also joined by my friend, Nick Dinardo. What's going on, Nick?
Not too much, Niyi. Great to be here.
Yes, I'm excited, man. So just a little bit about me, man. If you guys don't know, many of you probably heard me on my podcast, the Sports Motivation Podcast, but I'm a former NFL running back, went to Oregon State, was an All-American at Portland State as well. I'm the founder and CEO of I'mNotYou.com, former firefighter, recently retired. I'm a mindset coach, and I also host the Sports Motivation Podcast, and recently just found out we over 150K plus downloads, man. So it's moving. I'm extremely excited about it. So if you guys haven't checked that out, you can go ahead and check that out, and we'll give you some information at the end as well. But that's a little bit about me and my man, Nick. Go ahead and tell them who you are.
Yeah, guys, great to be here, and thanks for joining us tonight. So I'm a peak performance coach. I work with athletes, coaches, and entrepreneurs focused on building resilience, grit, and mindset. That's why Niyi and I get along. But I'm the founder and CEO of NickDinardo.com, host of the Sweet Adversity podcast, focused on interviewing guests who are who have unbelievable stories, like Bobby Carpenter, former NFL player, Spartan Race founder Joe DeSena, Olympics bronze medalist Caroline Burkle, and other entrepreneurs and successful people with amazing stories of overcoming things. Also wrote the book, The Game of Adversity: 8 Practices to Turn Life's Toughest Moments into Your Greatest Opportunities. #1 bestseller on Amazon for a while. So excited to be here and drop some knowledge.
Absolutely, man. So I'm super excited, man, because the confidence is a really big issue. It's a big time topic that a lot of people bring up, a lot of athletes, but it really doesn't just relate to athletes. It's really anyone who's really trying to take their results to the next level. It's, do you have the ability to bet on yourself in times of distress, in times of conflict, in times of crisis, etc.? Because we all know everyone can do well when everything's going well, right? But when it's actually time to get the results, to, do work, you know what I mean? Like what these boys on the Cavs and Warriors are going to have to do today. It's, do you have that feeling of certainty about your ability to get it done? And that's what confidence is. So what you're going to learn in this training is you're going to learn how to go from being extremely unclear about your goals to having a solid and actionable plan to accomplish them. You're going to learn why 98% of athletes set themselves up to fail and don't even know it. So I'm going to be explaining, like, I've had a lot of experience in my own life setting goals, as well as with athletes and helping them navigate their way through their journey. And there's a lot of tricks and tools and a lot of mindset shifts, if you will, that are going to be critical for you guys. So if you're not taking notes, I suggest you get a pen and paper out. There's been studies done that show the effects of writing down what you learn. And even if you never go back to reviewing this material, it will help in ingraining it in your nervous system. So that's big time. You're going to have to learn how to create legit confidence in 30 seconds or less. And I'm going to take you guys through a powerful exercise towards the end of this webinar. And so I suggest that you guys stay tuned, because I'm going to take you through the exercise. Is going to be extremely powerful. You're going to learn how to evaluate yourself. The 5 questions that I use and teach my athletes to evaluate themselves after games and practices. Why the thing that you avoid will actually 10x your progress. We're going to talk about going through the fire training, which is super powerful, and tons more. So I'm super excited. And also, I want you guys to stay tuned at the end, because we're going to have a very special offer for you guys at the end that's going to have a lot to do with confidence, and so you can take the stuff that you learn here and take it to the next level. All right. So Nick, why don't you go ahead and tell them whether or not they're in the right place or not?
Well, guys, I mean, this is all about people who strive for optimal performance, people who want to sustain excellence over an extended period of time, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in business, whether you're a coach, whether you are trying to find new ways to get to your athletes, you are in the right place. I mean, if you are somebody who feels overwhelmed or anxious or wants to develop some plan of action moving forward, you're definitely in the right place here.
Nice. So I want you guys to imagine, all right, so think about where you're at right now in your career. Some of you are athletes, some of you are not, but just think about where you are right now. And I want you to imagine finally performing as well as you do during practice and training. So think about how hard you go in practice, right? And you think about all the work that you put in and how it always goes well, at the times when you're practicing. But think about finally playing that way when it's time to actually put it all on the line. Think about feeling that confidence when going up against a tougher opponent. We all know what it's like to be in, even as salesmen, we're given a presentation in front of some intimidating, prospects. We are playing a team that's a lot better than us, whatever it is. Imagine feeling that 100% confidence when going up against them. Imagine consistently executing your daily habits instead of giving up midweek. And I know everyone listening could relate to that feeling when you start off strong, you're all excited. Everyone who set goals during the beginning of the year, even when you got, New Year's resolutions and stuff, we start off hot, but then for some reason we always sort of tailor off, sort of midweek or even in the beginning of the year. So imagine being able to consistently execute, and imagine being able to get out of a negative slump in a heartbeat, just like that. Just get yourself out of a negative emotion that you guys feel habitually, that we all feel, how to get at that quickly. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in that podcast or today in this webinar. So tell me, I want you guys now to write in the chat box and tell me what more confidence will do for you specifically. So I want to hear about where you guys are at right now in your lives and your careers, etc., and why you showed up here today, meaning like what would more confidence do for you?
Some great questions coming in here.
Definitely.
How do you keep your confident and aggressive mindset while doing things that don't directly affect your passion? We're going to definitely cover that.
Yes, definitely. What? And another great question from Dimitri. He says he's been trying to figure out in practice how to resolve the paradox of needing to focus on doing all the aspects of a move, right? So he's talking about staying low, dribbling to the side, using 4 fingertips, not carrying, hard last dribble, jumping high, while at the same time being in the present and in the flow. It's a great question, and I love that question. We're definitely going to get into that as well. I see Nicole Welch in the building. What's up, Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jimu. What will more confidence do for you? Let's talk about what more confidence will do for you. Wale talks about being able to lead the fire service. He's a lieutenant, started his own company. He wants to develop the courage to leave the fire service. I like it. I could definitely relate to that, man. Man, I'm here in my office, man, and I don't know if you guys can hear, my kids are over there in the backyard acting a fool. So Nicole talks about more confidence would be more consistency. That's critical. We're going to definitely talk about that. All right, so you guys can continue to pour in the answers. I'm going to tell you right now a little bit about my story. So like I said, my name is Niyi Sobo. I was born here in Portland, Oregon, and one of 4 brothers. Played football my whole life, starting at 7th grade. Well, played soccer early, but I was too big, man. I hated running. So I started playing football, and I fell in love with it. And I was one of those athletes that would really do anything and everything to get better. And I wasn't always the best. I was never the best, actually. I was never always the best on my team, but I always just got better. And so I ended up going to Oregon State, walking on there, went to Portland State, transferred, and then ended up going to the league to play there for a couple years as well. Now, after I got done playing in the league for 2 years, that fell short due to injury. I was sort of in a space where I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was really confused, and I spent about 2.5 years wandering. That means just sort of working at jobs I didn't like, being very, very indecisive, until finally I decided I want to become a firefighter. And so I decided I want to become a firefighter. I had no experience, and I became a firefighter in about 6 months, which is super fast considering being a firefighter is statistically harder to be than a pro athlete. So I was very, very like lucky, if you will, and the pieces lined up perfectly. And so I'm a firefighter. I'm working with athletes as well on the side, just training them and things. And I decide that like, yo, man, these athletes, what they need from me is not physical training. What they need is to develop a more dominant mindset, because they're not able to take their skills and apply them to real life. And not only that, they're allowing their real lives to interfere with their on-field play as well. So how many guys have ever known exactly what you needed to do, but still didn't do it? And you didn't do it because you didn't know what to do. You didn't do it because you didn't have the right mindset. You didn't have the right way to approach it. And so that's where I'mNotYou.com came from. And now I work with athletes, showing them the habits, the mindset, the systems, the strategies that they need to dominate their sport, to not just compete, but to dominate. And so that's where I'm at now. I also recently just retired early as a firefighter. I was only a firefighter for about 2.5 years, and it was a great job, man. But I just felt like at this point I knew what I wanted to do, and there was no reason for me to not do it all out, quite simply. And so it definitely wasn't an easy decision, but it was one that weighed on me so hard that I just knew I had to do it. And so I'm really extremely glad I made the move. I'm doing what I'm doing full time now. Super excited. I work with professional athletes, entrepreneurs, other top performers as well, and I show them how to dominate the sport. I also have 5 children. I'm married to a beautiful wife, got 5 kids. You might hear them in the background, even though I'm in my office, but they're pretty loud outside. But so, yeah, that's about me. Nick, why don't you tell them about you?
Sure. So I think this topic is just so pertinent. When you think about confidence, everybody's got their own definition or the way that they interpret confidence. When I think of confidence, I think of failure. I think of how important failure is in developing confidence. And with the only way to use failure to your advantage is by developing a body of work and experience. And for me, my story is really in 3 different buckets, the way I explain it typically. One is really, really personal, which I'll get into. 2 is as an athlete, I played college football. I never made it to the elite levels, but it was good enough for me. I enjoyed playing at college ball, and in business as an entrepreneur. I'll start with my personal story. I've told Niyi this a bunch of times, and Nick knows this as well. 7 or 8 years old, living the American dream, 3,000 square foot house. Younger brother, parents are happily married, it seemed at the time. And within 3 months, and my dad was a small business owner, by the way, a successful small business owner. He had sold his business, garage door business. And 3 months later, he was bankrupt. We had lost our house that he built with his bare hands, foreclosed on the house. And my mother had a severe bipolar episode that put her in a mental hospital. And from there, my world was turned upside down. If you get into more details about it, you can email me later if you're interested. But from there, I've become passionate about figuring out how adversity is such an important component in people's stories and successful people's stories. And from there, I've been able to build this podcast, which is really focusing on just that, top performers, and how these inflection points in their lives turned out to be the critical things that ended up shaping who they are and why they're successful. Number 2, as an athlete, confidence really comes from failure. In 8th grade, I remember hating football, absolutely despising it, feeling like I wasn't good. But through a body of work and continuing to show up to practice every single day, my dad would not let me quit. And I remember it was one specific hit where I said, I got that guy good. Maybe I do have something in me. And it was a coach nurturing that confidence from there that really got me to college. It was a full scholarship, and that ended up being a pivotal point in my life. And number 3, as an entrepreneur, direct failure. Bootstrapped the business with a colleague of mine, and it failed miserably. Within a year, nosedive. And most people would say, wow, what a mistake you made in doing that. I left a high 6-figure job, car, benefits, great work, very secure, and ended up failing in that business. And it ended up being the best decision I ever made. It was difficult for another year or 2, but you end up developing those skills because of the stakes that Niyi's going to talk about as one of his components in making sure that you're focused on impact and building a business that matters later on. And that's where we are today. So those are the three components. I think when you think about confidence, think about your own failures. Think about the things that you are working on. You'll get there.
I love it, man. Great work. Hey, I want to shout out to Joey Kenny. That's my man, Joey, man. And also Marvin. Thanks for showing up. You joined us a little late, but we're just about to get into the meat of the webinar. Pause. And so I want you now to think about what's holding you back from more confidence. All right. Right now, we're about to dive in to the 7 steps, the 7 ways to build lasting confidence and perform your best when it matters most. And I want you to think about what's holding you back. All right. And before we start, I want to make this really clear. All right. So there's a type of person that is the I know guy. All right. Now, those are the type of people who, when you tell them something, they're quick to say, I know. And I'm always wary of those people, because when you say, I know, what you do is you cut your brain off to learning something new. So I want you to think about your favorite athlete, right? I don't know, Tom Brady, Steph Curry, LeBron James, whoever your favorite athlete is, whatever makes them great is the fundamentals. It's them mastering the fundamentals. So that means if there's something that you hear today that you've heard before, don't say I know to yourself. Make sure that you find a way to apply it in a new way, because that's how breakthroughs happen. I have books that I've literally read 5 to 6 times. I have books that I listen to over and over that I underline, re-underline, keep learning. So the things that we tell you here today are super, super practical. And I want you to focus on implementing that and thinking about how that's going to make sense in your life today, like starting now. Because we had somebody in the chat box talk about procrastination and things like that. I want you to treat today as a turning point in your career, in your life, that today you're going to make a new decision. And so let's get into it. All right. So one of the first things, we're going to start with method number 1. All right. So method number 1, as a way to build lasting confidence and perform your best when it matters most, is we got to start from the foundation. All right. We got to start from the foundation. And that means creating a compelling and clear identity. All right. And another word for that is vision as well. So you always have to begin with the end in mind, with the outcome, with the result that you're going after. A lot of people play sports and they do what they do and they have no reason for doing it. And if you don't have an identity attached to who you are or what you're trying to accomplish, it's going to be really, really tough for you to sustain yourself. And it's really not a recipe for gaining confidence. I mean, I can go back to, when I was in college and I was playing at Portland State. I didn't know if I was going to be, picked up in the draft or anything like that. But I had a compelling identity for myself. I knew who I was and who I wanted to be. And that was what drove me. And that's what kept me working hard, especially when a lot of guys didn't want to. And I also had a clear vision of where I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to play in the NFL. I knew that was something I wanted to do. And I didn't know how it was going to be possible yet. But that's not the most important thing first. What's most important is that you first start off with a clear and compelling vision and identity. Nick, you got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, when you're thinking about creating it, not just setting the vision, but also creating what that's going to look like. I think about a really important exercise that helped me figure out who I am and what's important to me is the perfect day exercise. You really just sit down and spend 2 to 3 hours really thinking about the activities that are going to be really important to get you to that vision. And if your vision's out of line, your activities, what you have in that perfect day exercise will reflect that. And you can change your vision from there. But really sit down and think about what your perfect day looks like, what you'd really be excited to do every single day of your life, and align that to your vision and vice versa.
Absolutely, man. It's about reverse engineering. I mean, just imagine your mom making, a Thanksgiving meal, the biggest feast of the year. And she just goes to the grocery store and just randomly, throws some things in the cart and kind of does it willy-nilly. Like, if you're going to create a masterpiece of a career, of a life, you've got to be able to create a clear vision first. So before she goes to the store, she creates a list. She has a list of things she's going to make, dishes she's going to make. And not only that, she has a clear vision of what it's going to look like when it's all done. And that's what helps her determine how to create the strategy, all right, which is what we're going to talk about next. So method number 2 is deciding on high impact quarterly goals. All right. Now notice we're talking about confidence and we haven't even started talking about emotion or anything yet, because we got to go, like I said, to the ground level. If you aren't able to tell yourself or anyone else what your goals are, meaning what is it that you're trying to accomplish in a quarter. Now I like to break my goals up in quarters in every year. So I start with my ultimate vision, break it down to the year, and then break it down in quarters. So at the end of this month, I'll be going to the beach actually with my wife, and we're going to have a ceremony of creating our goals for the next quarter as well. And so what that means is identify for yourself what results would have the biggest impact on your career right now, right? So I've seen some basketball players in here. Dimitri, basketball player. Think about what goals would have the biggest impact? What results would have the biggest impact on your career today? If you set those and in three months you accomplish them. So that might be putting on a certain amount of weight. That might be, improving a particular skill. Whatever it is, make sure that you have some measurable quarterly goals to attach to your vision. Another great question to ask that will help you figure out what these goals should be is, what does your vision need you to master, right? So like you said, you start with the end goal. Like if you do what Nick suggests, right, which is a great exercise to sit down and say, what's the perfect day look like in my life? Then say, what does that vision of yourself need you to master? So maybe that vision has an element, and it should, that you haven't mastered yet. Maybe your left hand isn't that great yet. Maybe you don't have the ability to sell or to pitch your ideas to people. Maybe you don't have the ability to squat a certain amount of weight. Maybe you're not as strong as you need to be. Identify those things that have the biggest impact on your ultimate results and make that your goal. All right. Which leads us to number 3. Now you've got to implement a training routine that revolves around high impact skills. All right. Now I see this mistake made a lot with a lot of people as they begin to overthink, and it's crazy how simple it is. I mean, when you talk about, someone in their skill set, right? Let's take Clay, right? What's his last name on the Warriors?
Clay Thompson,
right? The dude's a shooter. Now, do you think he goes in the gym every day and is working on boxing out all day? Chances are he's probably not. Now, not to say he's going to ignore boxing out, but he's a shooter. That means he's got to implement a training routine that revolves around shooting, because that's what he does. So for you in your career right now, ask yourself, what do I do, right? Like what is my role wherever you are, right? Wherever you are, what is your role? This can even be applied to fathers. If you're a father, then ask yourself, what are the high impact skills or the high impact areas that your family needs you the most, right? You talk about, as for me as a father, my kids need me to spend quality time with them. They need me to teach them things, right? I'm a coach to my kids. And so that means I've got to develop a routine that revolves around that. So if you're a salesman makes sales. You need to make sales. You need to develop a training routine that is all about the high impact skills. So for example, if you're a shooter, then you should have a rigorous training routine revolving around shooting. If you're a basketball player and you're a rebounder, you need to be focusing on how to become a master rebounder. And I have a routine that I call it, or a system, if you will, called target practice. And all it is a set of daily and weekly standards around effort and time having to do with the skills that have the most impact, right? So as a business owner, what are the skills or the things that you do that have the biggest impact on the bottom line, that make you the most money, that make the biggest impact on the customers? Do those things. Spend all your time doing those things. Develop a routine around those things. Nick, what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, so this is critical to me, because when I think of implementing a routine, I think about process. And when I've interviewed, high performers, when I continue to interview high performers, the consistent thread is about process over outcome. So what they do is they aggressively set a goal and forget about that goal after they have developed this rigorous, measurable training routine. And one example of that is John Wooden and what he used to do with his teams. During game day, he would never coach. He very rarely actually had a teachable moment in a game, because his training routine, which was a 2-hour practice, it never went before, and it never went after that 2 hours. They had things broken down by the minute to be really, really successful and based on skills. And he prepared his team for any high stakes situation in that game, so he didn't have to be teaching during the game to really confuse people. So this training routine is really key when you think about process over outcome.
Absolutely. That's a great example, man. And it's funny, the book we were just talking about, Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, he uses the example of Bill Walsh from the 49ers as well. And he has a book called The Score Takes Care of Itself. And he had a mentality similar to Wooden, in that, like, he believed that if you set really high standards for yourself, the score would take care of itself. So I don't believe in not setting outcomes. I believe very, very highly in setting outcomes. However, what Nick is saying is that you set the outcome, forget it, and immerse yourself in the new standards that you've set for yourself. So think about your training routine right now. All right. So I want you to think about the goals you have and the vision that you have. Right. And it's easy to visualize. It's easy to say, okay, I want to accomplish all these things. And if you were to write out a detailed description of your current training routine, right, as it revolves around what your weaknesses are and where you want to go, write down your current training routine and ask yourself, does my training routine reflect the quality and the quality of my vision, right? So a lot of people got $1 million dreams, but they got, $3 habits. You see what I'm saying? So you got to make sure that your habits and your standards, the things that you do every day, they match up. If you're a salesman and you want to make sales, you should not be not making calls every day. You got to be making calls. You got to be putting in the work. Whatever it is that you're doing, do the things that have the highest impact. That's method number 3. Method number 4 is this is one of my favorites, man. It's called routinely put yourself through the fire. All right. So what do I mean by putting yourself through the fire? There are tasks, there are challenges, there are scenarios, plays that you and I both dread, right? Now, I remember, for example, when I was in high school, when I ran track, on Tuesdays is when we had our hard conditioning day. And I remember all day as a sophomore, I remember all day on Tuesday feeling that just my stomach, I couldn't even eat, you know what I'm saying? Because I felt like I didn't want to do it. Like I was scared of the training, right? And so this right, I'm getting a little kickback. Nick, you still there?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, cool. I'm getting a little hearing a little echo. But putting yourself through the fire, what that means is think right now. Actually, I want you guys to put in the chat box. All right. So right now, I want you to identify, it could be like 1 or 2 words. What's something having to do with you as an athlete or as an entrepreneur, wherever you're at in life, right? Whatever your occupation is, what's something that you really hate that gives you like anxiety? So it might be shooting free throws at the end of the game. It might be squat day. It might be, when you got to shoot free throws in front of everybody on the team. It might be when you got to take tests. It might be when you got to make cold calls. It might be when you just name a scenario that really, really scares you or it gives you some anxiety a little bit. Let's see what people got. Presentations. Right. For me, okay, one of those, I'll just share one for me. For me, one of those is following up with sales calls, right? Or calls of potential coaching clients, etc. Following up when they've initially not signed up for my services. Do you know what I'm talking about, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult.
So exactly. So that for some reason that just gives me a little anxiety. It's like I just have this hesitation to do it. And so that obviously does not bode well for someone who wants to make money, and make money in their business. So Wallace is asking for help. That's a really good one. I can definitely relate to those. Having great ideas and not working on them. Okay. So you're probably having some anxiety about executing the ideas. Suicides, man. I can definitely relate to the suicide one. You see that, Nick?
Yeah, it's huge. Yep. Who the hell wants to do that, right?
Exactly. The point in a race where it feels like you can't go any harder. There we go. When it's time to get in the ring and there are tons of people watching. Yep, I can imagine. I remember, shoot, this is hilarious, man. When I was Nick, I played basketball in high school, right? And I remember my cousin Quincy came to one of my games, and he was like, I love Quincy, man. And he was always like really cool to me, right? My cool cousin. And so it was funny. He was watching me at the games, and it was really packed in there. So he was like on the bottom of the baseline, like when people are in a high school gym and sometimes they just stand on the baseline. And I was at the free throw line, and I saw my cousin. He was watching me, and I was so nervous, and I airballed the free throw. Yo, it was hilarious, dude. I still remember that to this day. I get like this weird feeling in my stomach. I just airballed the free throw, man. All right, so good. We got some definitely some great scenarios. So here's what you're gonna do with those scenarios now, and I want to challenge you. All right. So Wale, asking for help gives you anxiety. That is the exact thing that you need to do as much as possible. Routinely put yourself through the fire. You've got to put yourself in the very scenarios that give you the most hell, that give you the most anxiety, that scare you the most, because only then are you going to be able to master those things. There's no magic pill to take to all of a sudden become so confident and be clutch in those moments when they need you most. Because, like, for example, Wale, you got a startup, they need you, your partners need you. So this is the clutch time. So you got to put yourself in the very scenarios. And if you can't ask for help, then you can't expect to get any help. And so, for example, the point in the race where it feels like you can't go any harder, like Steven said, right? You've got to be able to duplicate that very scenario in your training and put yourself through that fire and do it as rigorously as possible. You talk about, what's his name? Ray Allen. Ray Allen would sprint up and down the court until he was exhausted, and then he would start shooting. He would only start practicing his shots until after he was exhausted, because it doesn't matter how well you shoot when you're fresh. What he needs to be is exhausted, and then he starts shooting. And that's why at the end of games, he always comes through in the clutch. So identify what your boogeymans are, right? The things that give you the most hell, the things that bring you the most fear and anxiety, and put yourself through those very challenges. Nick, you have anything to add on that? Maybe a personal story about you putting yourself through the fire?
Man, I think about creating stakes for myself, because what you're talking about really is getting uncomfortable, really understanding what makes you uncomfortable, knowing that that's going to make you better, and then attacking it as best as possible. So I think about, I put presentations up there in the chat box. I get massively nervous every time I have a presentation or I have a speaking engagement of some sort. And the best way to overcome that is to book more speaking engagements, because it forces me to prepare. And then the more I prepare, the easier it becomes. So it's over the long term, it becomes easier and easier. And there'll be other things that end up being difficult and uncomfortable, but you end up attacking and then overcoming that one thing that was the most uncomfortable for you. So try and build that into your routines when you look at method 3.
Absolutely, man. And it's crazy. You talk about being able to bet on yourself, and you can simulate these things in training, or, you can do it in real life. Like a real life example with me, and this is just straight up. I literally just quit my job as a firefighter about 5-6 weeks ago, literally. And this is a job that you're supposed to stay in for a long time. You got a great retirement, you got great benefits, all of that type of stuff. But putting myself in a position where I knew I had to get it done. I had to figure it out. And it's crazy. We always think we're doing enough, right? We're like, yeah, we're going hard, but you're never going as hard as you know that you can. You're never going as hard as you really can. And it's not until you put yourself through the fire that you see what you're really made of. So that leads me to my next one, because you can't just put yourself through the fire and go on about your day. You have to be able to ruthlessly self-evaluate. All right. So what this means is this: you have to be able to separate yourself from your ego. All right. So look at yourself with a magnifying glass and see what went wrong and see what went well. And do not judge yourself. Have the ability to be patient and objective with yourself, as opposed to constantly criticizing. Because, for example, one of the things that we do a lot is once we get once we go through a situation that was tough and we didn't handle it the best way, we start to judge ourselves and we give ourselves hell for it. And we talk about, oh man, you shouldn't have done that. Man, I should have done this. I should have done that. Those words shouldn't be in your vocabulary, because if you're ruthlessly self-evaluating, then you're always going to be able to get better. And that gives you a tremendous source of confidence when you truly embody this. I'm telling you, when you actually start to evaluate yourself objectively, you become the type of person who can ask for feedback from anyone. And even if it does sting a little bit, which, you know, your ego will get involved, and it's one of the hardest things to do is to suppress your ego. But once you get good at doing that, you get good at it by doing it a lot. What you do is you start to exponentially grow, because you gain so much more valuable insight that most people ignore because their egos are so weak that they can't take criticism. Think about this. When's the last time you asked your boss what you could do to get better? And ask yourself why you wouldn't do that. The reason why you wouldn't do that is because you're scared to hear the truth. Ask yourself, when's the last time you looked at yourself on film? When's the last time you asked your wife or your girlfriend how you, like, if you can be better in bed? I challenge you to ask your wife or your husband or boyfriend that, right? And the reason we don't ask ourselves because we don't want to know the truth. But if you want to get better, if you want to develop the confidence that the most, you know, top dog athletes in the world have, you got to have the ability to ruthlessly self-evaluate. So I'm going to share you some questions that I teach and train my athletes to use after practices and training sessions, etc. All right. So one is, what went well? You got to be able to identify the things that went well. What made it go well? So don't just notice what things went well. Notice the things that made it or contributed to it going well. Like maybe you notice, man, I notice when I do that, or I focus on this goes a lot better, etc. What obvious mistakes were made? And what lessons did these mistakes teach me? All right. So you want to be able to extract lessons from specific mistakes that you made. And then the last one, what action must I take next practice to improve on these weaknesses? Nick, you got anything to add?
Yeah. So this is critical, because this is based on really deep research in psychology too. And what you're doing when you're self-evaluating, when you can really figure this out and because this is probably uncomfortable for a lot of people. It's really about building your self-awareness. And if you're able to build your self-awareness, a lot of these methods really build into each other, because the more self-aware you are, the more you can figure out who you are and what's important to you, which goes back to your vision. So that's my 2 cents on why it's so important to self-evaluate and get it down.
Right. A very practical example of how you can do this is, I'll give you a couple examples. One, you know, I do this with my kids and my wife. Like, I actually give them surveys that they fill out each week to tell me how I did in the areas that I'm most weak and what I can do to improve. In the gym, when I'm working out, I rate myself in the categories of these. How encouraging was I to myself? How much energy did I have? How connected was I to my inner alpha, right? How seriously did I take my warm up? These are all judged on a scale of 1 to 10. And so I'm able to start to see trends. I noticed that when I take this serious, when I connect to big C's, is who I call my inner alpha, right? Then my workouts go very well. When I don't, then I can expect a certain outcome as well. So your ability to ruthlessly self-evaluate is going to give you a tremendous advantage over your competition and give you loads of confidence. I'm talking about the ability to know that you're going to be able to come out of any scenario on top, because you're always getting better. And even when you quote unquote lose, you're always winning because you're getting better from it. That leads me to method number 6. Surround yourself with winners. All right. This is critical, man. And I feel like this is one of the things that's overlooked a lot. Like, we talk about environment, but I don't think we really look at our environment with a close enough lens. All right. So let me explain what I mean by that, because surround yourself with winners is obvious, but I want you to think about it a little different. So I want you to now develop what we call a power circle. All right. So these are going to be the people that are in your corner, that are going to be guides and mentors, coaches, etc., on your way to success. So first, think about your like-minded peers. So think about who are you, the people that you spend the most time with. All right. So think about the people you spend the most time with. Do they really reflect where you are or where you want to go? Right. So we all need peers. We all need people that we hang out with and things like that. Right. But are your peers really on the same level as you? Are they going where you're going? And so that's the first thing. You want to make sure you have like-minded peers. The next thing is you want to make sure you have apprentices. All right. So that means you want to also be teaching someone. You want to be taking somebody and helping to groom them. I believe this 100%, and I've seen this mentioned many places. But the best way to learn something is to teach it. All right. So that means if you are a high school basketball player, let's say, then get a little, a middle school kid and start training them. Don't charge them money. Just start teaching them how to dribble, teach them how to shoot. If you got a little brother or sister, teach them what you're learning. If you have kids and you're learning, different things in your job, teach them that. Have apprentices, people that you're teaching and showing these things, because I feel like what that does is that creates another level of accountability. Like, my kids know my goals. They know what I'm trying to accomplish. They also know what I teach them. And so if I'm not living in accordance with that, my daughter, she's 5 years old. She has no problems calling me out on where I'm slacking, right? And so having this power circle around yourself makes it critical. So that's like-minded peers, apprentices. And the next thing is you got to have mentors and coaches. You got to have people who can see you from the outside and sort of put you up on game and be able to. And these are people who should be ideally heavily involved in your life or know about your life in some sort of way. So think of people at church, think of older teammates, think of coaches that you have, think of, entrepreneurs that you know. You can even reach out to people. I've made a lot of friends through just simply reaching out to people. Me and Nick met as a result of someone introducing us, and we live in totally separate cities, but we now help coach and mentor each other, as well as serve as a peer to one another and sort of help each other as well. And then the last one is role models. And what I mean by role models, the difference for the sake of this between mentors and role models is people that you look up to that, maybe you don't know, obviously, like people that have written books, people that are very, very successful, maybe even people that are no longer around, people that are dead, but people who have left a legacy and are, someone that you aspire to be, someone that has some qualities or some traits or skills that relate to you and where you want to go. Nick, you want to talk about the power of environment and how important it is to surround yourself with winners?
I was just thinking about when I see this slide, I was thinking about Mike Singletary when Vernon Davis was giving him trouble. I want winners. Remember, he was talking about the 49ers and surrounding himself with winners, and he turned Vernon Davis around when he was being selfish. But this is really important. That Jim Rohn had a quote: "You are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with." Which is critical. And I think what you've hit on is something really, really important, because what people forget about is the importance of giving, which is taking on those apprentices and really showing them the right way to do things, and really helping them avoid mistakes that maybe you had gone through. And then also, like you said, having the right role models and mentors to shape the way that you're going to teach and the way that you're going to take action. So I think this is a critical point.
Absolutely. And I suggest everyone get very, very deliberate and intentional about who's in your circle. So start with just writing down who are your friends, who you spend the most time with, and then simply evaluate and say, yo, is this who I need in my circle moving forward? And plug and play. You know what I'm saying? Take people out. And that doesn't mean you never see them. That doesn't mean you're rude to them or anything like that. It just means that you're just choosing to spend your time around people who are going to help further your aims and goals, which should also be attached to something bigger than yourself. All right. So the very last method I have is prime time. Now, let me explain what prime time means, because it's a ritual. It's a ceremony for me, and it's a strategy that you can use wherever you're at. And it's extremely, extremely powerful. At the end of the day, confidence is an emotion, and it's something that you can create as soon as you decide to. So what I'm going to show you now is how you can create that literally any time that you decide you want confidence. Now, how many of you guys have ever practiced your ass off, been prepared, but still didn't feel confident? My guess is you all have felt that before. Like, you've gotten in a situation where you felt like you should be confident, but you just didn't feel it. And it was all because you weren't paying attention to the 3 things that contribute to emotions. All right. So I hope you guys are writing this down right now. The first one is the way you use your body. All right. So how you use your body determines how you feel. So when you're biting your fingernails, when you're looking at the crowd, trying to identify who's watching you, when you're, hunched over, when you eat horrible food, when you have a certain look on your face, this all contributes to how you feel. And you got to be deliberate and intentional about how you use your body. So for you, if you want to feel confident, there's a certain way that you stand. It's a certain posture that you have. There's certain things that I'm doing with my hands right now that contribute to the feeling that I have right now. Now, if I did something else, it would affect it. All right. So that's body. The second one is focus. What you focus on at any given moment directly contributes to how you feel. So, for example, when you're getting nervous, when you're stepping into the ring, what are you focusing on? What specifically are you focusing on? Are you focusing on yourself and how other people are going to see you? Or are you focusing on, what you have to do, or your particular training routine, or, a particular, just are you focused on being in the moment? Are you focusing on enjoying the fact that you're in this fight right now and you're getting ready to be able to, defend your belt, whatever? What you focus on, what you choose to focus on, because it's a choice, directly affects how you feel. And if you are in the habit of constantly focusing on certain things, then you're going to feel those ways. So the people who always feel scared and afraid or nervous, they're usually always focused on how they're going to look or how they're going to appear. They're focused on other people's opinions. So you have to get in the habit of disciplining yourself to focus on what you need to feel confident. So when someone feels confident, what do they focus on? So tell me, like, I want to ask you guys right now, like, when you felt confident, and I know that all of you guys have felt confident at some point or another, what specifically are you focusing on when you feel confident? Go ahead and tell me in the chat box. I'm actually really curious to hear. Nick, when you feel confident, what are you focusing on?
Man, I'm feeling prepared. I'm not thinking at all. It really comes down to how I've practiced and how I've executed on the habits and routines that I've wanted to do, because I'm not thinking in that moment when I'm confident.
Exactly. Yeah. And so unconsciously, though, your focus is on what? Just delivering, right? Or it's on the impact you're going to make. It's on the people who you're serving, right? It's not on you.
That's it.
Exactly. So the last one, we got body focus. And so a couple of people weighed in on this. They're focusing on whatever's at hand. They're focused on tearing the legs off competitors and making them hurt more than they ever had. Damn, that's scary. They're focused on winning, seeing the ball go through the hoop. So you're focused on what you want. Now, when you're nervous, you're probably focused on the ball not going in the hoop. And so that choice of focus, a lot of times we think we don't have a choice, but we do. We just been so conditioned to be nervous and focus on what we don't want that we don't understand. But the last one is language. So it's the words that you use. So the internal dialogue and the self-talk that you use, as well as the language that you use out loud, directly affects how you feel. And so right now, I got a surprise for y'all, man. And I'm really excited for you guys to go through this portion, this exercise, because I'm actually going to take you through right now, live here on this webinar. You are going to go through a powerful primetime conditioning visualization exercise. All right. This is one of my favorite pictures. I actually put this up in my gym. It's from the movie Creed. But one of my favorite movies, man, in a cold scene, actually probably one of my favorite scenes in a movie, other than The Patriot, when he went when he went off on that when he had him and his two sons killed that whole platoon of men. But anyway, I digress. Right now, I'm getting ready to take you guys through this. All right, so I want you to shake yourselves out real quick. All right, we've been on this webinar for about an hour, and I actually want you to stand up when you do this. Okay. So this is very, very critical. I want you to stand up. This is an active visualization exercise. I want you to expect to feel extreme levels of confidence after this is done. All right. So are you guys ready? Nick, are you ready? I want you to stand up too, man.
I'm ready, man. I'm already up.
All right, let's do it. It's prime time, baby. Let's go. You are about to take this emotion of absolute bulletproof confidence and belief, and you are going to make it real. You are going to install it into your nervous system so that's a part of who you are. This is not a game. You are absolutely confident, and you have 100% belief in yourself, in your capabilities, and your future. You are feeling this every time you wake up in the morning, when you look in the mirror, anytime you face a challenge, no matter what the circumstances are. You're carrying yourself in a way that displays this confidence. Stand up. Take a big, deep breath in. Let it out slow. You're walking with pride, with your head held high, shoulders back. You are proud of your physique and your physical capabilities. You smile as you put in work. Your breathing is always controlled and relaxed. You control your breathing so that you're focused. Your body language shows poise, and it makes others feel comfortable and confident around you. Your eyes are always zoned in on the target, always focused. You move with purpose, boldness. Your movements are decisive. You're explosive and strong when you're performing. You have everything you need in this moment to perform at your very best. You love this challenge, and you look for and embrace everything that is positive in this moment. The universe is friendly to your plans. God wants you to win. He wants you to win. You feel the power of your inner best come through, and it makes you light up with energy. You are talented, gifted, and absolutely unstoppable. You are dominant. You believe that everything that you want, you deserve without question. No one can do what you do. You are absolutely one of a kind. In your mind, you tell yourself that there is no circumstance that you cannot overcome. You are designed to win. You were built to win. You can see yourself accomplish all of your highest goals, all of your highest visions, all of your highest dreams. And you can see yourself having fun as you win. You see yourself celebrate with your friends and family every time after you come through and make it happen again and again. You are focused. You are dominant. You ask yourself, how can I win? What must I do to build even more belief? What are all the ways I can add value to everyone that I come in contact with? How can I be an asset? How can I find an asset in every single situation? What about this situation gets me fired up? Why am I so certain that I will succeed? How can I get even better? You trust yourself and your instincts. You choose your own thoughts. You listen only to those people who you trust, who you respect, and who believe in you as well. You do all of the little things daily that got you to this point, and you keep getting better and better and better. You perform great consistently, and you're fully confident in yourself. You are absolutely the best choice, and you deserve everything that you want and dream of. You play more consistently, and you get even better. This is who you are. Feel this. This is who you are. You spend time daily harnessing this emotion, practicing it, conditioning it. You spend time with those people who make you feel even more confident, who challenge you, who believe in you. You work harder than anyone, and you have a high standard that you set for yourself. You are absolutely committed to growing and learning, and you have a deep compassion and love for you. You appreciate who you are. No matter the circumstances, no matter what it is, you always find a way to succeed. No one can bring to the game what you do. No one can stop you. you are absolutely unstoppable and fully confident in yourself and everything that you can do. Feel this in your body. This is you. Take a big, deep breath in. Let it out slow. Now take this feeling with you wherever you go. Condition it. Practice it daily. Make it a part of who you are, because it is. This is who you are.
Woo! I'm ready to put on the
pen. Yo, so that's a little sample, man. I do that every single morning, man. And I do many different versions of it. Nick, how you feel?
Feel freaking great, man. I'm ready to go.
That's awesome, man.
I wish it wasn't 9 o'clock my time. I'd be ready to. I'm gonna have to do this in the morning.
Exactly. Why don't everybody go ahead and tell me how you guys felt about that, man, and how that went for you. I'm telling you, man, when you talk about emotions, it's just like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you get. The more you go into the gym and lift, the stronger you get. So if you are in the habit of priming positive, powerful emotions, you are going to feel way more powerful. It's going to be easier for you to get in and out of those emotions, a lot easier. And it's going to be super powerful, man. So that brings me to the ultimate confidence system. And, you know, I actually released this product a few weeks ago. It's no longer available for sale, but for today, this is going to be available for you guys for about 5 more hours. And it's an extremely powerful, it's called the Ultimate Confidence System. I designed it, man, because it's one of the main things that people struggle with. And I wanted to find a way that I can put everything I know about confidence into a system. So I want you to think about this, because if you do any of these things, or any of these things sound like you, then this Ultimate Confidence System is absolutely for you. You can click on that yellow button that's on the bottom right of your screen, and it will take you right there. But I want to explain. So if you procrastinate, like if you're the type of person that you know there's things that you got to do, but you make excuses or put off making decisions, then that's a lack of confidence. You got to be able to get some confidence, and that's what this Ultimate Confidence System will do. If you don't know what your goals are, if you have goals that are vague and not specific, if your goals are very quote unquote reasonable and based on, you know, normally what people do, if you have thoughts of, can I really do this? Is this possible? Or do I deserve this? If you oftentimes feel frustration and overwhelm, if you get salty or a little jealous when you see others who have results that you want, this is big time. There's a lot of athletes who compare themselves to other people. And if you're one of those people, then you suffer from a lack of confidence. If you change plans often, if you don't really even have a set plan for how you're going to achieve a goal, a lot of people have big goals, but they don't have no plan and they don't execute. You know, if you avoid feedback or get uncomfortable, you know, when others give you feedback, if you make excuses for why you don't have what you want, if you blame where you are on other people, circumstances, or things you can't control, you got to understand your confidence is absolutely within your control. And so in this system, there are 7 modules, 7 video series. It's complete with a lot of worksheets and exercises that can do along with it. But you're going to learn the missing link to a more dominant career. You are going to learn the first and most important step to building confidence. You're going to learn the real reason behind all your failures and frustrations. I'm going to break it down for you and show you how to change it. You're going to learn a simple ritual that would effectively double your confidence. You guys just went through a sample right there, and I'm going to teach you how to do that on your own. You're also going to learn how to use fear and anxiety to boost your performance, and how to condition yourself to feel confident on demand, amongst many other things. All right. So this is a very powerful system. Here's a couple of testimonials from some guys that I've worked with. I've implemented this system and all the core elements of the system with a lot of athletes, and have had tremendous success. And it's definitely something that contributes. All these things that I teach are things that I live. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not going to tell you guys to do nothing that I wouldn't do. When I tell you I prime time every single morning, I mean, mine, you don't even want to know how I get down with mine. My kids can tell you that they hear me when I prime time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe that emotional juice and stamina is that of the utmost, priority. And I spend a lot of time on that. So I want you guys to go ahead and check that out. You also have 1 month to try it out. So you can get a full refund, no questions asked, if you try it out and you don't like it. I'm also going to include Dominant Habit System. This is another video series that's $197 value. I'm adding this in for free, and it's the 8 habits of the most dominant athletes, and you're going to learn how to implement these in your career and take your results to the next level. All right. So you only have till midnight. Now, if you procrastinate, I guess that's the price you're going to have to pay. But if you procrastinate, that's the very reason why you should do this. If you're one of those people that's always on the fence, you have literally no risk. If it doesn't work for you, you can return it. But think about what not having confidence to make those tough decisions is going to do for you in your career. What do you really have to lose? All right. So also, man, Nick's got a special gift for you guys that he's going to tell you about right now. And this is for everyone who showed up here tonight. So this is no charge. If you decide that the confidence system is not for you, which, I don't know why that would be the case, but you're going to walk away with a gift anyway. So go ahead and tell them what it is, Nick.
Yeah, guys. So I'm just putting a bit.ly link in the chat box here. This is the full Game of Adversity ebook, 120 pages, 8 practices to turn life's toughest moments into your greatest opportunities. Niyi and I were talking, and this is typically a $9.99 item, but we decided it would be of great value. Thank you for taking the time to be on this webinar. We hope you've gotten a ton of value out of it, and I hope you'll get a lot out of the book.
Absolutely, man. I'm also adding in another gift right now. I am going to give you guys that visualization track that you just heard. I'm going to give you guys a copy of that right now. So if you can check in the chat row, I just gave you a Dropbox link for that primetime visualization MP3. So you can download it, put it on your iPod, put it on your computer, listen to it every day. Make sure you go to I'mNotYou.com and subscribe to my email list, because I'm giving away cool gifts like that all the time. All right. So make sure you stay up to date. And so there goes that. You can check both those links that me and Nick just shared in the chat row. All right. And lastly, man, I want to give you guys a chance to connect with us. And before you take off, after this, we're going to be talking a little bit just about some questions and stuff. You guys have any other questions about the material that we dropped today? Go ahead and type it in the chat box, and we'll chat about it. We'll spend another as long as we need to, as long as you guys want. We'll spend talking through questions and stuff, and just sort of hanging out. All right. So you can connect with me at I'mNotYou.com. You can also search for the Sports Motivation Podcast on iTunes, and that's where you can find me. And where you can find Nick, go ahead and tell him.
You can find me at nickdinardo.com. All my podcasts are there and interviews. So check it out.
No doubt. All right. So right now, man, I want to take the time to answer a few of the questions that we got. And so how about, I actually had a question that I wanted to address. How do you keep your confidence? This is from D Buxton 35. David in Gettysburg. He says, how do you keep your confident and aggressive mindset while doing things that don't directly affect your passion? I like this one. Hey, if you don't mind, I'm gonna dive into this one, man, because this one definitely resonates with me. So here's the thing, man. My guy Anthony Trucks, he's a fellow entrepreneur and also an former NFL athlete. You can check him out at anthonytrucks.com. But he's my guy, man. And he actually said something really, really powerful to me, and that resonated with me a lot. And it's this: if you have to find a way, basically, to everything that you're doing in your life should serve a purpose, a very strong purpose. And if you're creative enough, you can make this happen. So, for example, when I was working at a factory job, after I played in the NFL, I had to go work. Well, I didn't have to. I worked at a job that I didn't really want to. It was paying pretty well, but I hated the job, right? And when I was working at this job, I really didn't like it. I wasn't having a good time. And it wasn't until I decided to become a firefighter that I actually was like more I decided to become a firefighter. And then that is when my job actually started to become not just fun, but I actually used the job to my advantage. And so here's what I mean by that. I was studying hard to be a firefighter. So I would study at lunch, And during work, I would listen to podcasts. I would listen to Tony Robbins tapes. I would listen to, Brian Tracy, all these things. So now going to work actually fired me up because I knew it was helping me reach towards my higher goal. My point is this: whatever is in your life that you feel like is draining energy, you need to do one of two things. Number one, you need to get rid of it if it doesn't serve any use. And number two, if you don't want to get rid of it, then you've got to find a way to make it important. And by making it important, just simply ask yourself, why is it important that I do this? And if you can't come up with any answers, then you need to let the gig go, the job or whatever it is, or the activity, or exaggerate the importance of it so that it becomes something that you are passionate about it, that you are feel fired up about it. Now, you don't even have to feel quote unquote passionate about it. It's more important that you just generate some sort of drive towards it or attach a purpose to it that is enough to sustain you. Does that make sense? So I really hope that helps you out, David. Hey, Nick, do you got anything to add on that?
Yeah. David, how you do anything is how you do everything, in my opinion. I've always appreciated that quote. When you have something in your life that does not directly affect your passion, I would challenge you that there are probably skills in that pursuit that can help you with what you're passionate about. So I would also distinguish passion and purpose, and I know that Ryan Holiday talks a lot about that in the new book. So just like Ray Allen, when he's doing the sprints before doing the shooting work, I mean, he's a shooter, so why isn't he doing that work beforehand? It's because he's doing the tough stuff to get him to the thing that is paying him the bucks. So how you do anything, really attack that task, whether or not it's going towards that passion or not, attack it like it is.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I want to address a comment from Jimu, and this is a good one because he says he wants to shift from, doing one thing and then going to the next. He's like procrastinating, right? Like starting on one thing and not keeping on it. And there's a couple of things that I believe are really, really helpful. So first off, you need a system. So this is one of the things that happens when people get exposed to a lot of different ideas. You listen to a lot of podcasts and things like that. But it's like at the end of the day, you've got to take what you learn and either, number one, implement a system yourself or find a system that works for you. All right. And that's the main reason why I created the Ultimate Confidence System. So that's a great place to start and something you need to do. Another thing would be to do is to get a coach. All right. So me and Nick, we have our coaching programs. There are tons of coaching programs out there that are super helpful, but you need a system. If you feel overwhelmed with a lot of things that you have to do, then you got to make sure that you have a system. Another thing to do is what I find is that when people are jumping from thing to thing, it's because they don't really have a clear outcome of where they're going. Right. And so everything that you do should relate directly to where you're going. And if you know where you're going, then the things that you need to do usually show up in a little more clear way. Not saying they're always obvious, but you tend to find that you're a lot more clear on what you need to do when you have an outcome or a set of outcomes that are very compelling to you that you want to get to. So I would encourage you to do that, Jimu. Get yourself a system, get yourself a coach, and at the very least, identify what your major outcomes are right now in your life, wherever you are, and that will make a big difference. What do you think, Nick?
I agree, man. Couldn't have said it better.
Definitely. All right, I think we have one more question over here. And if anyone else has any questions, go ahead and type them up in the box. Got the passionate one. There was one from Dimitri that I wanted to focus on. He talked about, I don't see it right now. Maybe
I got it right here. It's this is from Dimitri. I've been trying to figure and practice how to resolve the paradox of needing to focus on doing all the aspects of a move, staying low, dribbling to the side, using 4 fingertips, etc., while at the same time being in the present and in the flow.
I like that. I'm going to weigh in on that real quick, man. There's a movie. Man, Nick, tell me if you can remember the name. It's a drummer. It was a really, really great movie.
Yes.
The guy from, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I do. Hold on, I'm going to find it. Shoot. I can't remember what the heck the name is, though.
I know. I'm trying to think, man.
A Whiplash. Whiplash.
Whiplash. Yeah. So that movie, man, you got to watch that movie, first of all. Just watch that. And I feel like that would do a lot to answer your question. But the idea is this. It's kind of simple. I don't mean to oversimplify it, but I think that's the best thing to do here. You have to put yourself through the fire. So you talked about, the first stage of learning, and I'm going to butcher this a little bit. I just heard this recently as well. It's some of you hear a lot, but it's when you're basically you're aware of the fact you're not good. Then you start to practice a little bit and you get better, and then you can do it, but you're still thinking about it. You want to get to unconscious competence, where you can do what you're doing without even thinking about it. All right. And the only way to do that is by, like I said, I think it was method number 6 or 5, routinely put yourself through the fire. So that means you've got to practice those skills, those dribbling skills, with as much intensity, with as much distraction, with as much real life simulation as possible, until it just becomes habit. Like, how you do things is through habit. And so it would be very important for you to, film yourself as well and watch yourself, so that you can evaluate yourself in your free time. Obviously, that's what coaches and trainers are for as well. But the best thing you can do is practice, man. Just keep going. And chances are you're close. You know what I mean? If you're doing it and you're doing it with intensity and you have the intention of mastering the skill, you will master it with enough time, with enough focus, with enough, intentional practice. But it just takes time. And the more you practice with more intensity, the faster it'll go. What do you think, Nick?
Man, the Whiplash trailer, the Whiplash movie is the perfect example of what he's going through. So you're right. It's all about preparation. And I would also focus on method number 3, really focusing in on that training routine to drive towards those goals.
Yeah. And having some sort of way to measure it, you know what I mean? So if you can find some sort of creative way to measure your progress, right? So maybe it's the amount of time it takes you to do X, Y, Z. Maybe it's a simple matter of measuring the quality of it. So at the end, ask yourself, how many times did I slip up with the ball? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how focused was I, et cetera. But I believe that, man, with enough focus and diligence, if it's your goal, if that's what you want, you will get to it. You just, and again, practice that ruthless self-evaluation. Frequently separate yourself from yourself to watch yourself. Look at yourself and watch how you respond, etc., and you will get better. So if anyone's got any more questions, man, go ahead and type them in the box. Me and Nick are going to be hanging out here for a little bit longer. I'm going to go and throw in some tunes real quick so y'all can vibe, and then we'll wrap it up. But make sure that you click that link down low. The Ultimate Confidence System is going to be available for another 5 hours till midnight. All right. You can use the same link and make sure you make it happen. All right. Y'all, I want to take the time to address Suzelle. There wasn't a question there, but I think I want to address this just in the form of just what I think about everything you're saying. First of all, I can relate to that. It's really tough. There's actually some athletes that I've worked with who had similar problems with getting coaches that are going to invest in them, et cetera. You know, so she's 24. She's having a problem finding the coaches that are going to invest in her. And if she feels like she's not getting a fair shake when it comes to that, and she's extremely dedicated and hungry, willing to put in the work, and wants to go to the Olympics and is just trying to find the right coach. So I can relate, and I want to follow up with you as well and see maybe if I can help in that area as well. But here's the thing: like I think when we talk about putting or ruthlessly self-evaluating, I feel like you got to be able to objectively look at yourself and say, what would make a coach not want to work with me? All right. Now, I don't know you and I don't know your situation. I don't know your talent level, et cetera. I do know that it's in every coach's best interest to coach athletes who have talent, who are going to be successful, et cetera. So there are a lot of athletes that I've worked with who have complained about coaches and et cetera. And sometimes, you know, coaches suck. You know, there's coaches that aren't, going to give you the fair shake that you want, et cetera. However, in every situation, there's an opportunity for you to look at yourself and say, yo, what is it that I can be doing better? What is it that I can be improving on? What would make someone not want to work with me, et cetera? And that way you can actually profit from the situation as opposed to continuously being frustrated. Because I feel like the more frustrated you get, the more you're going to continue to tell yourself the story that there are no good coaches out there. And that's exactly what you're going to see. You have to determine that there is the right coach out there. And in the meantime, you're going to maybe go and even ask these coaches who have not been the best and ask for their honest feedback about, where you are, et cetera. So I think that would help you as well. Nick, you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, it's I mean, just in what you put up here, Suzelle, sounds like you have a chip on your shoulder, which is a good thing typically when you're trying to be disciplined and achieve really big goals, which you have, which is fantastic. I would just reiterate the same thing. Really think about what the reasons are that the coach is not willing to commit or dedicate themselves. If it once you get that data, once you get that information, then you can make the determination on whether or not it's the coach or if it's you and something that you need to work on yourself for the next coach that you have. So it's just about, and it's tough. It's a really difficult thing, but going through that process is going to be worth it for you in the end.
I feel you. Any more questions? We're going to be wrapping up here in the next 10 minutes. Go ahead and leave your questions in the chat box, and we'll make sure to answer the questions. So the coaches you had before all lost about all their fighters because they were not dedicated. Well, that sounds like you got obviously a case of some bad coaches. So I wish you luck on your journey of finding the right coach. I would encourage you to stay optimistic and believe that there is the right coach out there for you. It sounds corny, but that commitment to believing that is going to make a huge difference in your effort levels, the quality of effort that you take, and the quantity even. So keep doing your thing. And I suggest that you subscribe to both Nick and my podcast as well and keep listening. And I'll even make sure to address similar issues like that in episodes to come. All right. So I had a blast today, man. This was super fun. And I really want to thank you guys for, number one, taking the time out of your night. You know, like you could have been doing anything right now. I'm sure a lot of you guys got off work. You're tired. You want to hang out, but you're taking time out to invest in yourself and learn and apply these new strategies to your life to get a different result. So I salute you for that. I really do. And I want to encourage you. You got until midnight to go ahead and buy the Ultimate Confidence System. And that will expire after this time. And then make sure that you go ahead and use those gifts that we gave you, that book that Nick hooked you up with, as well as the primetime visualization track. And we'll keep in touch. My email is niyi.sobo@gmail.com. I'm actually going to go ahead and put that in the chat box right now. So if you guys have any questions at all, you can hit me up. And I want to really thank you guys for being on and also sharing a lot of your journeys with me as well. I appreciate you guys being open and honest about where you're at, man. It's been super cool. I feel like when people are vulnerable and honest, like we get to know each other better, you know? So I feel like I know you guys better, and hopefully you get to know me as well. So much love. Thank you for showing up. Nick, you got anything you want to say to him before we leave?
No, I appreciate you taking the time, guys, to invest in yourselves like this is huge, and to spend the time with us and to interact the way you did. It was special. So appreciate it.
I like it. All right. Well, shoot. Much love, and make sure you click on that link before the time runs out. If you got any questions, email us. Peace.